Black Rock Mill rises out of the woods like a memory refusing to die. 3 stories of broken stone, open to the sky, the creek whispering at its feet like it remembers everything we forgot. Once, this place roared. Now, it just breathes. I didn't mean for this to be a long stop, just a quick peek inside the ruins before the last light slipped through the trees. But the second I stepped through those window frames, Black Rock Mill wrapped its fingers around my curiosity and refused to let go. And somewhere between the milestones and the shadows, a tiny spotted lanternfly kept following me around like it wanted headshots for its modeling portfolio. But we'll get to that diva in a minute. Because this abandoned mill carries more than dust and history, it carries stories, layered like shale. A thriving community, a flood that nearly erased it, a restless miller in the afterlife, and then, decades later, Hollywood arrived and rewrote the entire legend. Today, we're cracking open all of it. The truth, the folklore, and the strange magnetic pull that made this stop one of my absolute favorites of the whole trip. Black Rock Mill was built in 1815 by Thomas Hillary, a man who looked at Seneca Creek and saw raw power waiting to be captured. For a full century, this place wasn't just a mill. It was the place. Farmers, families, friend groups, and gossip chains all ran through these doors. Grain came in one side, flour and timber out the other, and half of Montgomery County's early homes were built with lumber sawn right here. Walking inside the ruins now feels like stepping inside the skeleton of a giant. Massive stone walls loom overhead, dotted with scars from floods that clawed through this valley more times than the locals could count. The millstones lie collapsed like old soldiers. The giant saw blade is still wedged in place like a rusted warning, and the whole thing feels alive somehow. Quiet, but alive. This was the heartbeat of a whole region. So why did it go silent? The official answer is progress. Steam-powered mills, bigger operations, cheaper production. And that's true. But standing inside these ruins, with the late light slanting in through empty window frames, it feels like something is missing from that explanation. And that's when I decided I had to find the old cemetery nearby. The one Echo had flagged as the Button Farm African American Cemetery. Easy little hike, right? Key, no. So here's where the Covert Ops part of TMP Covert Ops truly earned its name. I headed off down what I assumed was the correct trail. Spoiler, it wasn't. 2 miles later, the sun was getting suspiciously low, the woods were getting suspiciously quiet, and the Maryland wildlife was getting suspiciously unknown to this Florida girl. That's when I did the only reasonable thing. I called Dusty. So there I am, hiking through the woods, breathing heavy, unsure if I'm about to find a hidden cemetery or become one, and chatting with my best friend like we were on a lazy stroll down to Dollar General. We laughed at how ridiculous the situation was. We also laughed harder when a guy with 2 dogs popped out of nowhere, pointing me back toward the mill, and kept going like he rescues confused tourists every Tuesday. As I finally made it back near the mill, my phone dropped signal, cut Dusty off, and refused to reconnect. Because Murph loves nothing more than shutting down the support line exactly when you need it. But I was determined. One wrong path? Fine. Time for round 2. So I circled to the other side of the creek and tried a second trail. Steeper, rootier, darker, and hiked until the sinking feeling in my stomach said, "Congratulations, you're officially being stalked by sundown." Back to the mill I went. At this point, listen, I had to pee. Not want to, not oh, it's time. We had reached code orange. I took a third trail, walked deep enough that the world got quiet, stepped off the path, made sure I was gloriously alone, and popped a squat in the Maryland wilderness. If the ghost of the old miller was watching, I'm sure he turned right around and gave me some privacy. But with dusk swallowing the trees and one more stop left before the hotel, it was officially time to call off the cemetery search. The mill won this round. Back at the ruins, the shadows had lengthened and the place felt transformed. Less like a historic site and more like an unsupervised film set. Local folklore says one of the millers loved this place so much that after he died, he never really left. Visitors have reported chills, strange noises, that classic being watched feeling, the usual millside starter pack for a haunting. But then, something big happened. In 1999, a tiny, independent horror film launched a cultural earthquake. The Blair Witch Project. And these woods, this park, became the real-world backdrop for its mythology. Coffin Rock? Trail starts right across the road. The famous Creek interviews? Just beyond the bridge. Suddenly, Black Rock Mill wasn't just a historic ruin. It was a node in the Blair Witch constellation. A site that horror fans walked into with fear preloaded in their imagination. The ghost of the miller? He got overshadowed hard. The Blair Witch became the new phantom that clung to this place, turning an abandoned industrial relic into a pilgrimage site for thrill seekers who didn't care about grain, lumber, floods, or community history. Stories rewrote a landscape that had already been rewritten once before. And now, the lanternfly. While I was taking photos inside the ruins, trying to frame the stone walls, the rusted blade, the way daylight poured in, this tiny spotted lanternfly kept inching closer and closer like, "Ma'am? Hi? Ma'am, I'm ready for my close-up." Every time I moved, it repositioned like a tiny supermodel hitting its marks. I swear if I'd set up a mini fan, it would have flipped its wings like a wind machine moment. Some stops give you ghosts. Some give you legends. Black Rock Mill gave you a six-legged influencer. Black Rock Mill feels haunted because its stories pile up like leaves. The truth, the folklore, the movie myth, and all the little personal adventures layered on top. It wasn't abandoned because of one big dark reason. It was abandoned because of many. Stacked like sediment. Industrial decline, a flood that nearly erased it, a miller who might not have left, a film that rewrote the identity of the entire forest, and a traveler, me, wandering through its bones with a phone call to Dusty, a setting sun, and a lanternfly that demanded to be famous. So tell me this in the comments. What do you think truly defines a place? Its history? Its legends? Or the stories we create when we go wandering through its ruins? If you love digging into the strange, the sacred, and the forgotten, hit that like button and subscribe. We're just getting started.